Hi, I'm Mary, a librarian turned book reviewer with a focus on stories written for kids, tweens, and teens. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about this book called Mulrox and the Malcognitos by Carolyn Smith. This book is a really fun fantasy about a character named Mulrox. And Mulrox is an ogre, but he's kind of a disappointment. Instead of doing the normal ogre-y kind of things like causing mayhem and destroying stuff, he wants to be a poet, but it's a secret desire because, as you can imagine, a lot of ogres are not so into that. Well, when his terrible ideas come to life in the form of the Malcognitos, he finds himself in the woods mercurial, helping them get back to their realm and escape a danger that's following them. But he has to do this all in time to get back for the big poetry competition, which he desperately wants to win. This story is a really, really fun fantasy adventure. It's filled with characters that are unusual, as you can imagine. So Mulrox is not a great poet despite wanting to be one so desperately. And when his ideas come to life, they all have very unusual names. And they go along with exactly what the bad idea was in the first place. So they're very creative, really interesting when they come up in the story, and they each have a personality of their own. And as you can imagine, with the ogres themselves, the ogres have unusual names too. So there's a lot of that in this book. It definitely feels like a fantasy. And the woods mercurial, the word mercurial itself is just so fun to say. And when you get into that part of this book, it's filled with adventure. Every page has something new on it, and every turn in the forest brings them somewhere else. So it keeps the pages turning, keeps the story going, and you're really invested in Mulrox, not only in getting the Malcognitos home to safety, but also getting to that poetry competition, embracing the things that he's not so great at, and finding ways to be better at them. And as I was reading this, there are a lot of times that I found myself thinking of Willow, the 1980s movie. And, it's a pretty high fantasy. It's got this character, Mulrox, who is not trying to be a hero. He has just kind of been thrust into it. And he has to step up to the occasion because it's up to him to make sure that all of these other creatures are kept safe. So it's a lot of fun. It's definitely best suited for a confident middle grade or young adult reader. There's a lot of text, not a whole lot of white space. Like I said, a lot of unusual names of characters in here too. So as you're getting into this book, it's definitely one that you'll want to set aside some time for, really dive into, and get to know this fantasy space in which Mulrox finds himself. And by the end, you might think differently about your writing or your bad ideas. And what maybe wasn't so great in the moment, maybe has some potential later on. If this sounds like a great fit for you, I hope you'll look for it at your favorite bookstore.